What's going on, you guys? Welcome to D+Pad Life, and today I want to pick up on a topic I touched down on the last video. The last video was called "The PS5 Deserves More." And at face value, that title might look like, yeah, the PS5 does deserve more. It needs more exclusives. It needs more good games. It needs more this. It needs more that. But no, that wasn't the point of my video at all. What I meant by the PS5 deserves more is I meant it deserves more appreciation, more gratitude from gamers. Something I touched down in that video is how often I hear about how dissatisfied gamers are with current modern day gaming and the current consoles. Lots of complaining about lacks of exclusivity or game quality not being that great, especially just being sick and tired of microtransactions and play to win mechanics and gotcha games and things of that nature. And so it really got me thinking because I'm having the complete opposite experience with this generation. And truth is, I had the complete opposite experience with the last generation because I've been gaming. Let me put it like this. I've been gaming ever since I could game. I was born in the late 80s, right? And I've been gaming since the original Nintendo. And since I can remember, people have been complaining about gaming in one way, shape, or form. At one point, it was there's too many first-person shooters. There's just way too many of these. They've taken over the genre. At one point, it was people being really mad at all the Call of Duty and Madden and FIFA players that they're ruining the industry with the way they're pushing things. There's always one complaint or another. Right now, I think gamers are really standing in their own way. They need to get out of their own way. You're missing the point. Gamers have forgotten how to have fun. They've forgotten how to enjoy themselves with the hobby. I'm not saying all of them, obviously. This isn't all encompassing. I'm talking about the specific ones who just can't seem to find any level of satisfaction in the hobby in this day and age. And so there's a few key points that come to mind. I already hinted at one of them, and that's the lack of exclusivity. People are upset that so many games can be played on so many different platforms now. Games that were exclusive at one point are now available on PC. People also want more exclusives, so they want to see Sony studios making more games. And I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with this sentiment, that wanting to see more exclusive games, or at the very least, like I said, Sony-owned studios making games. I think that's a fair thing to want, and that's fine. But when it's to the point to where it's got you upset and it's got you frustrated with the whole the generation as a whole and criticizing it and thinking less of it, that to me is a problem. Because you begin to fail to realize that what you are getting is incredible and there are quality games out there. You're just choosing to focus on one bad aspect of the situation and allow that to take over your full vision. Another common complaint I hear is there's too many remakes, too many remasters, too many ports. And this kind of leads into another point I wanted to make. So I think when people complain about remakes, remasters, and ports, what they're upset about is they want more original ideas, or at the very least, their ideas. I've played this already. I don't want to play this again. And what bugs me about this is you've got collectors saying this. But what is the point of collecting all of these games if you have no intention on ever replaying any of them? And what remasters, remakes, and ports do is they not only give someone the opportunity to play a game they might have missed on the last generation of consoles to get a chance to play them on the current gen, but it also gives you the chance to revisit a game you've already played and enjoy it again, but only this time with improvements, with quality of life changes that make the games more approachable, dare I say more enjoyable. And so this idea that it's a problem, I think also fails to recognize that this isn't something new. The gaming industry's been doing this forever. Earlier today, I was trying to think of the oldest example of this happening that I could. And what came to mind was Jurassic Park on the original Nintendo. It's a top-down, almost Zelda-like game in a way, and it got a Super Nintendo port. Now, when I was young, I never even knew the NES port existed. And I thought the Super Nintendo game, while extremely challenging for me, was very, very cool. And then I discovered there was an NES version all along. I think of games like Terminator 1 and 2. There was that on the NES, but it also got a Super Nintendo game. Now, that's a little bit less of an example because those games handled pretty differently. But it still kind of stands... well, I guess it doesn't necessarily make the same point because they are different, but certainly Jurassic Park does. And like I was saying, that leads into my other points of, when are you going to replay your games? You want to sit around and complain that the current gen doesn't have games. It doesn't have good games. It's like, all right then, go back and play the games that you're claiming were so good from the last generation. They haven't gone anywhere. The art of replaying games, it seems to be drying up and dying unless people are playing retro. To them, you don't go back to the last generation and play games. You don't do that, or even the generation before. It's got to be retro or nothing. And I just don't understand it. I've got games that I played for the first time, or maybe the second or third, only 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm replaying them again, and I'm having a blast. I think something people don't consider is, as you grow older, as you age, as your perspective on life and the world and yourself and entertainment and gaming in general and certain series and characters begin to evolve and change, revisiting these games just hits differently. Like, sure, maybe the major plot beats aren't going to shock you. Maybe they're not going to hit like they once did, but they are going to hit, and they're going to hit different, and you're going to digest the experience in a whole new way. And if you go back to a game that you're very familiar with, you might be willing to approach it in a different way and try strategies you never had before and discover new things. There's a lot that I think goes unseen in games. You can't see every layer and every piece of every game you play. It's just not possible. But upon revisits, you can. Here's a great example. My wife recently got into the Resident Evil series. She wanted to see the games. And so we've been replaying through all the games, the classic versions and the remakes. And we were playing Resident Evil 2 on the GameCube. So based off the PlayStation 1 game. And I found a room in the sewers area that I had never seen before, ever. And I've beaten that game. I mean, I haven't kept a count, but I've had to have beaten it over 10 times, maybe even over 20 times, considering all the different scenario runs you can do. I have played that game from top to bottom many, many, many times. And I found a room, an entire room that I'd never seen before. And what was crazy is it had Magnum ammo in it and shotgun ammo in it. And at that point in the game, I mean, the Magnum's already the strongest weapon in the game, but you get the upgraded shotgun and it just annihilates everything. And I had no idea. The room's dark. There's a lantern in it. You light it with your lighter. It lights up the room and you can pick up items. And I never knew it existed. And that's from replaying a game. And again, speaking of Resident Evil, this is perfect. It goes into my next point. Okay, maybe you're not happy with the games you're playing right now. Maybe you're not happy with the games that are being released right now. Maybe you don't want to go back to the PlayStation 4, for example, because it's just too soon. It's not too far removed. Well, why are we pretending that retro games don't exist and that they're not still fantastic? And why are you pretending like you've played everything? There is so much to experience. There's so much that's unseen. If you're not having fun with what's out now, instead of sitting around and complaining about it, go find the fun. Go play the things that are surefire hits for you. Don't waste your time complaining, and don't waste your time with the stuff you're not enjoying. And I know some people may say, well, retro's not approachable. It's these games have gone up in price. Sometimes you don't want to track down their system. It takes a lot of trouble to get into it. Now, I'm not necessarily going to get into the finer details, but we all know that there are many ways to experience these older games that don't require you getting the games themselves or the hardware. Especially if you're one of the people who's complaining about how expensive games have become, which, granted, they have, and I'm not going to necessarily dive into this argument because I know some people, it rubs people the wrong way, but games are actually kind of the cheapest they've ever been in a way when you consider inflation. Like, considering what you're getting for what you're paying, games are cheap. Well, cheap may not be the right word, but priced fairly. I'll say that. They're priced fairly. I don't like paying full price for games. That's why I don't buy a lot of games new. I buy very few games new. Most games I buy used. And that's to save money at the end of the day. I enjoy getting a deal on games. That's part of the fun for me. One last point I'll say before we wrap this video up, and honestly, out of everything I've said, this might be the most crucial point. And I think we're seeing a rise of this, but it is get offline. Get off the online games. Stop playing them. Stop playing all these competitive games. Stop playing all these games where you have to schedule it with everybody you know or everybody you want to play with. Stop playing these games that are ranked and competition based. Stop putting your hobby in a position where every time you sit down to enjoy a game, it's all about competition. I have personally never signed up for this style of gaming. I've never been an MMO guy. I've never been an online guy. If you look at my shelf, I think you can see that. Very few non-single player experiences. I pretty much exclusively focus on single player games. Some of them might have a multiplayer option, but none are multiplayer focused. And that's by intention. Now, like I said earlier, I've been gaming since I was very young, but I've always valued the ability to pause a game whenever I see fit and to get up and do whatever it is I want to do or need to do and come back to it. I'm not in a position where I have to tell my wife, babe, I can't help you with that right now. I'm playing with the boys. It's not a good look. It has its place. I get why people like it. But I think ultimately, as we grow older, we begin to resent the games for the fact that, quote unquote, life is getting in the way. When in reality, no, man, it's just time to grow up around the hobby a little bit and realize online competitive games no longer match your lifestyle. You're grown now. You've got responsibilities. You do have to be able to pause this thing and put it down at a moment's notice and go take care of business. You do have to be more available. And instead of resenting games or the game industry for that, you got to look inward. You got to get out of your own way. You got to allow yourself to have fun again. And I think one of the most surefire ways of doing that is getting off these online games. I mean, just look at my shelf. There are countless single player focused experiences out here that you could be enjoying, that you can take on at your own pace. You don't have to be held prisoner by these games. And that's the best part. You can make them work for your schedule and your lifestyle. So, those are just a few points. I feel like I can make another video on this topic and speak to maybe even a few other points. But yeah, this idea that the lack of exclusivity or that there's not more exclusives or first-party titles, it prevents you from enjoying what is out there. You know, Guardians of the Galaxy, a multi-platform game. Callisto Protocol, Silent Hill 2, Resident Evil 4, Jedi Survivor. Oh, Jedi Survivor is so good. You know, RoboCop, Like a Dragon. It's a great one. You know, the list goes on and on, you guys. Remakes, remasters, and ports. You know, you want to talk about there not being any good games, but I'm pick up this one right here. 3 guaranteed classics available right now on a modern system. Oh, but they're old. It's like, dog, but you're not having fun. So why don't you play something you know you'll have fun with then? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of funny. I'm talking about people who are complaining, and it sounds like I'm complaining about the complainers. I'm really not. I feel bad for you guys. I'm having a blast. Gaming, I don't know if it's ever, I won't say ever been as much fun as it is now, but I've certainly have never been as aware of the amount of fun I'm having, or that the availability and abundance of fun that it offers. Check out remakes, remasters, and ports of games you know you love. Replay games that you know you love. Go to retro and explore something you've never seen before. Stop complaining about the lack of exclusives and stop playing the online games, man. At the very least, take a hard-earned break and sit and relax at a game that you can play at your own pace. Man, yeah, as you can tell, I got a lot of thoughts around this one. I appreciate you guys for hanging out. If you enjoyed hanging out with me, please think about subscribing to the channel. I upload about 2 to 3 videos a week. It's a little slower at this moment because I am very busy, as I've explained in past videos, but I'm coming to the end of that season within the near future. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please like the video. It really goes a long way. And join the conversation below. Make a comment. Let me know what you guys think about this. I feel like the get off online gaming trend is starting to grow. People are saying they're focused on story games. Are you doing that? What are you playing? Let me know. Have you played a retro game recently? What was it? What did you think of it? What would you recommend to anyone else who watches this? What have you replayed recently? Do you replay your games? Or do they just go on the shelf and collect dust, or you just sell them? I'd be curious. I replay games all the time. It's one of my favorite things to do. Let's talk, guys. Hit me up in the comments. Appreciate you guys for checking out D+Pad Life, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.